And good evening, Sword Family. And would you look at the time? It is now officially 12:01 a.m. on the 26th of April, which means that it is officially Jet Li's birthday, or Li Lianjie in Chinese. Didn't do that with Jackie Chan. Still kind of upset about myself with that one. But that means we're here for another movie tier list. Now, there are not nearly as many Jet Li movies as there are Jackie Chan movies. I only have 34 here, and Jet's only been in 45. But he also got a much later start than Jackie did. His first movie wasn't until 1982 when he was 18. So he had Jackie had about a 10-year head start on Jet. Jet will be turning, or not will be, Jet is turning 63 today. So we have 34 of his movies. Like I said, 45. And he did take a bit of a break. Yeah, he took a bit of a break from really just hammering out movies in the early 2000s, which we're going to kind of talk about when we get into that section. But let's just go ahead and get started. So, like I said, Shaolin Temple, his very first movie at the age of 18. He, of course, plays a Shaolin Temple monk. This movie is definitely a product of its time. It is an early 80s movie, but it's definitely not an awful movie by it. And of course, again, we have no F tier because I cannot bring myself to give any of these movies an F, even if some of them will be, just like with Jackie Chan, they will be low D tier movies. But I think Shaolin Temple deserves B tier. Next one is 1988, Born to Defense. Very much an 80s action movie. Not really my favorite of his movies. So I think Born to Defense is going to go up here in D tier. Now we get into the Once Upon a Time in China movies, playing folk hero Wong Fei-hung. This first one came out in 1991. This is an excellent Jet Li movie and an excellent just martial arts action movie all around. Once Upon a Time in China 1 goes in A tier. Now we have Swordsman 2. Now, I know what you're asking. What happened to Swordsman 1? Well, Jet Li wasn't in Swordsman 1. And this is really kind of a goofy movie. Came out in 1992. It's very 90s kind of kung fu theater, magic, silly kind of movie. This one's also going to go into D tier. Once Upon a Time in China 2, 1992. This one has a very excellent fight scene with Donnie Yen in it. Donnie Yen plays the bad guy. Also going in A tier. And Once Upon a Time in China 3, a year later, also A tier. Just the Once Upon a Time in China movies in general are great movies. Now, there was a gap where another actor took over from Jet playing Wong Fei-hung, and Jet didn't come back for 4 years. But if you enjoy kung fu movies, wire fu movies, you're going to enjoy the Once Upon a Time in China movies. But I personally would avoid anything between Once Upon a Time in China 3 and Once Upon a Time in China and America in 1997, which is this guy right here. This Once Upon a Time in China and America. We'll talk more about that when we get there. But Fong Sayuk, 1993, playing another Chinese folk hero. I enjoyed these movies, but not as much as the Once Upon a Time in China movies. So I think both of these are going to go up here in B tier. Now, I personally think Fong Sayuk 2 is better than Fong Sayuk 1. So we're just going to swap these two around. This is Fong Sayuk 2. This is the first one. I think this one is better. So if you're going to pick one of these movies, and these are really, really difficult to find, despite the fact that they were released by Dragon Dynasty. I think I talked a little bit about Dragon Dynasty last time with the Jackie Chan movies. They're really difficult to find. And they're not listed as Fong Sayuk. They are called The Legend and The Legend 2 in the Dragon Dynasty list. So if you can find them, I would go ahead and just watch The Legend 2. I mean, if you want to watch them both, absolutely go ahead. They're good 90s kind of kung fu movies. They're fun. Next, we have Tai Chi Master, where Jet Li is playing a comical version of Zhang Senfeng, the founder of Wudang Kung Fu. This is a great movie. It's silly, but it also has really, really excellent fight scenes. Tai Chi Master, 100% goes into A tier. Now we have Bodyguard from Beijing, 1994. Tai Chi Master came out in 1993. So did Fong Sayuk 2 and Fong Sayuk. So a lot of these are going to have like 3 movies in a year, 2 movies in a year, until we get into the early 2000s. But Bodyguard from Beijing, 1994, kind of your standard 90s romance. It has some good fight scenes in it, but it also has a lot of gunplay in it, and we discussed that with my Jackie Chan tier list. Not my favorite thing in the world, so Bodyguard from Beijing, C tier. Fist of Legend. Now, Fist of Legend is kind of interesting because I talked about New Fist of Fury with Jackie Chan's list when they were going through that time period in the 70s when they were trying to replace Bruce Lee. And New Fist of Fury was just Jackie Chan playing Bruce Lee's role in Fist of Fury. Fist of Legend is the same thing. It's just Jet playing the same role that Bruce played in Fist of Fury. But it came out in 1994, like 20 years after Bruce's death. I honestly don't know why in the early to mid 90s they released this movie. But I think if we're going to rank these movies, obviously, Fist of Fury is going to be the top because that's the original. I think Fist of Legend comes in a close second, despite the fact that it's kind of a remake ripoff because of that gap in time period. You know, they're not trying to replace Bruce Lee in 1994. I think they did it more as an homage. There's that word again. Better not be an insult. But I think Fist of Legend goes up in B tier. Because of that gap of 20 years, they're not trying to replace Bruce Lee like they did with New Fist of Fury. So that's definitely a B tier movie. Next, We have My Father's a Hero. You have Jet playing a father to a young son. He has to be away from the son due to work. The son doesn't really know that his father is like an agent or a cop. The son, of course, gets kidnapped, which leads to the big fight at the end of the movie. It's okay. Again, 1995. It's very much a product of its time, and it's also, there's some gun work in there, just like some of these other modern films. But I think that one can also go in C tier. High Risk, also 1995. This one I'm not a big fan of. There's a lot more gunplay and less martial arts. So that's going to go up here in D tier. Black Mask, 1996. Jet Li plays a operative from a secret government experiment, kind of like Captain America. The experiment gets shut down, so of course the government wants to kill all of the agents, but he escapes. He takes a job as a librarian, of all things. But then, of course, his past comes back, so he has to dress up as a vigilante in a mask. It's pretty good, all in all. I'm going to say B tier with Black Mask. Now we have Once Upon a Time in China and America, 1997. Now, we talked about Shanghai Noon last time with the Jackie Chan movie tier list. I am of the opinion that Once Upon a Time in China and America was the blueprint for Shanghai Noon. I think Shanghai Noon was an homage to Once Upon a Time in China and America. Kind of same basic concept. You have a Chinese man, only this time it's not an Imperial Guardsman. He's just Wong Fei Hung coming to America to visit with one of his past students who now is living in America. Their stagecoach gets attacked. He gets knocked out of the stagecoach, hits his head, loses his memory, gets like adopted by an Indian tribe. You can see the similarities here. This is honestly my favorite out of the Once Upon a Time in China series. It's silly, it's crazy, it's fun. Once Upon a Time in China and America. First movie to go into S tier. Hitman, 1998. It's not great, not terrible. I think it's better than High Risk, so C tier. Now we're getting into the American movies when he came over to the United States. Lethal Weapon 4, 1998. He has one line in the entire movie. And he still, to this day, remembers the one line. He's recently, Jet has been doing a podcast with his daughter where he talks about his life. It's called So Be It. Really good. You should go watch it. And he's still, over almost 30 years later, he still remembers his one line in this movie. In Hong Kong, you would be dead. And he only had one line in the entire movie because he did not speak English at the time. So they had to put him through like extensive work with a linguist for that one line. But he plays a very stereotypical kind of Chinese villain. I'm going to have to put Lethal Weapon 4 in D tier. Again, as a Jet Li movie. Remember, we went through this with Jackie Chan and Cannonball Run. As a Jet Li movie, D tier. Now, if we were going just on action movies, maybe B tier. But as a Jet Li movie, Lethal Weapon 4 is a D tier movie. Next, we have Romeo Must Die with Aaliyah. Came out in 2000. This is a pretty good Jet Li movie. It has really good chemistry with him and Aaliyah. It's very much a kind of star-crossed lovers, you know, their families hate each other, but these two are trying. But of course, it doesn't end like Romeo and Juliet does with them dying. It kind of ends with them walking off into the sunset together. I enjoyed Romeo Must Die. You know, 2000, beginning of the millennia. It's a good movie. So Romeo Must Die, A tier. Then we have Kiss of the Dragon, 2001. Jane Fonda, he again plays a cop, this time on loan to like the Paris police investigating some crime ring. I think that Romeo Must Die is better than Kiss of the Dragon. So Kiss of the Dragon is going into B tier. Now we have The One, also 2001. This movie, if for no other reason than the scene early in the film where you have the juxtaposition of the evil character doing Xing Yi on a rooftop while the good character is doing Bagua in his house, just from that scene alone, you actually get to see Bagua being practiced on screen. The One joins Once Upon a Time in China and America in S tier. Now we have Hero 2002. I love this movie. This movie is just everything that you could possibly want in a wuxia movie. You have wire fu fights, you have hate, you have love, you have amazing colors, great choreography. Hero, also S tier. Cradle to the Grave, 2003. Jet Li, and I believe it was DMX with Mark Dacascos as the villain. Not really on the top for me. It's take it or leave it as far as I'm concerned. So D tier. Now, this is where we're going to talk about his break from making movies. Because in 2004, him and his family were on vacation. This is straight from Jet's mouth. Like I said, that podcast that he does with his daughter. They were on vacation, 2004, in the Maldives, whatever, when the islands were hit by a tsunami. His daughter was just a baby. He nearly drowned. He lost his wife. Not like she died, but she was missing for a while. And it kind of made him rethink the important things in his life. So he kind of took a break from making movies during that year to think about, you know, what's really important. And we'll kind of get into what he accomplished here in a little bit. But 2005, Unleashed, Jet Li and Morgan Freeman. This is a good movie, modern. There is some guns in it, but for the most part, there's a lot of fighting. I like it. Unleashed, A tier. Now we have Fearless, 2006. Now, he said at the time that he made this movie that it was going to be his last martial arts movie. because this movie said, and this is from his mouth, again, this movie said everything he needs to say about the martial arts. I have discussed at length what this movie means to me personally and what it means as a martial arts movie. I named the tea house after this movie, comparing martial arts and his martial art philosophy, that comparing martial arts is kind of pointless. We need to compare people more than we need to compete against each other. It's a really excellent movie. I love this movie. Fearless absolutely goes up in S tier. Now, that came out in 2006. In 2007, because of his experience in the tsunami, he started the One Foundation, named after his movie, The One. And the One Foundation supports disaster relief efforts internationally. They work with the Red Cross, as well as other efforts, including mental health awareness and suicide prevention. So 2004, he nearly dies. 2007, he starts a foundation for disaster relief, mental health, suicide prevention, made a big impact on the world. And then he continued making movies for a while after, despite the fact that he didn't show up in public a lot during this time period. They found out he had hyperthyroidism, which kind of made him look older than he was. But that happened more in like the 2010s. If you see him in Mulan compared to like War and Forbidden Kingdom, you can definitely tell that he has aged, but that happens to everyone. So, next up, we have War in 2007, the same year he started the One Foundation. Jet Li and Jason Statham, they have some pretty good fight scenes, but there's also some gun work. But all in all, it's a pretty good movie. I think I'm going to go with C tier on this one. Then we have The Warlords, also in 2007, where he kind of goes back. You know, he made a modern movie. Now he's going back in time, where he's going back into Chinese history. This is a good one, at least as far as I'm concerned. That's going to go B tier. We already talked about Forbidden Kingdom in the Jackie Chan movie tier list. I have nothing further to say about this. Forbidden Kingdom, S tier. Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. He plays the Dragon Emperor. He plays the bad guy. 2008. This is not terrible. It's not great. C tier. I enjoyed it. I'll watch it. I own it, along with all the other mummy movies with Brendan Fraser. But compared to some of the others, it's definitely a C tier movie. Now we have The Expendables 2010. Don't really like this one. Again, he's kind of playing the stereotypical, tiny little Asian fighter guy with all the other big buff military guys. I don't really like it. So it goes in D tier. Sorcerer and the White Snake 2011. Once again, he made a modern movie. Now he's going back again. And he's doing a more period piece, a martial arts movie. This one's pretty good. He plays, if you've ever heard the story of The Legend of the White Snake, that's basically what this movie is. If you don't know it, Go look it up. You know, you have a snake spirit who wants to become human. She becomes human. She meets a man. They fall in love. But Jet is playing a demon hunter, and he is very, very staunchly anti-demon. There are no good demons. So when he finds out that the white snake is, you know, living with this man, he doesn't approve, but he kind of changes his mind along the way. There's some growth as a character. So this is going to go up here in A tier. Flying Swords of Dragon Gate 2011 is a remake of Dragon Gate Inn. If you've never seen Dragon Gate Inn and you just watch the modern version, I personally think the original is better, but Flying Swords of Dragon Gate, I mean, definitely a decent kung fu movie, so that goes up in B tier. Now we have The Expendables 2. You know, he's made 2 period martial arts dramas in 2011, so in 2012, he comes back to The Expendables. I have the same issue here. And he's only in The Expendables 2 at the very, very beginning for like 5 minutes in the movie. So, definitely D tier. Now we have Gong Shou Dao 2017. This was kind of an online movie. It might have been shown in theaters in Asia, but I don't think it was shown at all over here. This one is interesting because it's got lots of different martial arts cinema stars in it, all fighting against the main character. It's a pretty good movie. You can find it on YouTube. I enjoyed it. We're going to go B tier. And last is Mulan, the live action in 2020. Jet Li plays the Emperor. When I first saw the trailer for this movie, I didn't realize that was Jet Li. I didn't know when I first saw the trailer. You see him for a couple of seconds, but his name was on all the movie posters. And I was like, well, where is Jet in the movie? So I had to go back and watch the trailer. And I had to watch it like 3 or 4 times. I'm like, oh my God, there he is. I mean, there's his picture right there. You can't really see it very well because it's tiny, but he plays the Emperor. Now, I know a lot of people hate this movie. I personally like it. I like the original Mulan. Yes, I know it's historically inaccurate. That's not the point. It's based off of a legend. Doesn't have to be historically accurate. Doesn't have to be perfect. I think it's a good movie. So Mulan is going up here in A tier. And that's it. 34 movies. I think I have a few more in S tier than I had with Jackie. Lots of A tier, mostly B tier, a few C tier, quite a few in D tier, and most of them are because guns, except for Swordsman 2. But I think this is a pretty good spread. If you enjoy Jet Li movies, if you enjoy martial arts movies, if you enjoy gunplay movies, go out and watch any of these movies. They're all great movies. And happy birthday to Jet Li. You are an amazing, wonderful actor, a great humanitarian. And from what I've seen from your podcast with you and your daughter, you're a pretty interesting, down-to-earth person. You're probably never going to see this, but to everyone else, thank you for watching. Special shout out to my patrons, Dan Hollifield, Carl Witzman, Rich Asplin Jr., and Joe and Shalana Bachman. And I will see everyone next time. 再见。